So there's a lot of talk in sports about name, image, and likeness, so you know it as the NIL. But what about the TP, the transfer portal? What is that? I'm going to break all of that down. So if you got a college athlete or you have a high school athlete, or now they're recruiting at the junior high level, you need to listen up to what your options are. We're going to be joined by a local golf coach. Yeah, a smaller sport, to talk to you about TP, the transfer portal. I'm Shelia Smoot. The Shelia Smoot Show starts right now. Welcome into the Shelia Smoot Show. I'm Shelia Smoot. Good to have you along. You know, we're going to be talking a little more about what the portal is. That's not on your boat. That's not on your boat. We're talking about a sports portal, and it is specifically the NCAA transfer portal. And the portal is an online database where college athletes can actually declare their intent to transfer to another school. It acts as a system for athletes to signal their interest in transferring, and for coaches at other schools to find and recruit them. And this thing has been really, really just a topic all over the country, all over the world for college athletes. And many of you probably heard about it in regards to football and basketball. But what about some other sports? Some of the sports that you may not have as many players, or you may not have what is a name, image, and likeness deal where you can get millions of dollars, hundreds of thousands of dollars, or even a free meal just for you to put your brand or your kid's brand or your college brand on an item as an individual. We're going to be talking to Miles College head coach of the golf team, Leonard Smoot, who is experienced in this, because this is another sport that is being impacted by what is now called the portal. Leonard, Coach Smoot, how you doing this morning?
I'm doing well, and yourself?
I'm doing good. Thanks a lot for talking with us. You know, I was talking to my photographer, John Rocket, whose son is a star golfer, Reed Rocket at Hoover, and we were just discussing about the portal and what it does to impact kids who are in their senior year of high school, let alone who want to get into transferring to other schools, because it didn't work out where they were when they got there as freshmen or now juniors, and now you can just jump in this portal thing and go to another school, which is really a transferring of going into another program if this program doesn't work out. And also, Coach, a lot of coaches are telling their kids, hey, you need to get in the portal, because they're not having them. We'll get to all of that as we get to the first question of the day. This portal for sports, with sports like yours, golf, lacrosse, soccer, things that may not generate the revenue of a college football program or basketball program, how is the average coach, in your opinion, at your level and doing what you're doing with an HBCU? What are you hearing out there with these kids, and how coaches are handling at your level this portal?
Well, we're just like any other coach in any other sport. We're always looking for the best, student athlete to compete in our programs. With the transfer portal, it allows us as coaches to kind of see what's out there, kind of like you're out there shopping for the best product to bring to your institution to help with your scoring and things like that. And out there in the transfer portal, there's a lot of young male and females that go into the portal that allows them to seek that talent and to help your programs get better. But that's kind of what I'm seeing, where I'm seeing right now with this settlement that's out there, and having coaches are having more options available to them, if you will, especially with roster sizes, things of that nature.
Well, the portal gives athletes, you think, a greater control over their college careers. But on your end of things, while the portal does offer a benefit, it can also be a challenge to athletes to navigate this world of the portal. I mean, while you're supposed to be concentrating on playing your game, you're out there concentrating on what I get out of jumping into transferring to another school, not like it used to be, but for various reasons. For instance, what are you doing to navigate this? We'll start with your perspective first as a college uh, golf coach.
Well, I I rarely use the transfer portal because I want that young fresh kid coming out of high school to have that opportunity. But a lot of coaches, they look to the transfer portal. Let's just be honest. The transfer portal offers you an opportunity to kind of really go into it and see what have they have already accomplished.
Mm-hmm.
In golf is all we always looking at stroke averages and and with that being said, we can see what their stroke averages if they go into the portal. If you got a 74.3 stroke average in golf, that's pretty good. And a coach may pick up the phone because they may know who you are. Two, they're looking at that stroke average and seeing that you're a pretty good player. So, that's what the portal brings to the table. Whereas, you got other young people that's coming out of the high school level. It's going to put them in a dilemma too. So, uh, yeah, the student athlete has the ability to control their own destiny, but I would also say the coaches have the ability to control their own destiny as well these days.
Well, let's talk about the folks. Welcome into the Shelia Smoot Show. I'm talking to Coach Leonard Smoot, Miles College head golf coach, about the transfer portal, the NCAA transfer portal. And the rules are allowing a student athlete to transfer multiple times and be immediately eligible as long as they enter the portal during their sports official window and meet specific academic requirements. So the academic portion of this, I know a lot of people are looking at the money and all the stuff, but the academic portion still plays into those of people who are considering jumping into a transfer portal.
Absolutely, absolutely. You have to be able to meet those NCAA requirements, institutional requirements. All of that still matters. I mean, a lot of things that I think particularly young people that are not getting that NIL money and things of that nature that do jump into the transfer portal also have to think about does it does their credits transfer? You might be a junior, you choose to jump into the transfer portal in college, and you move on to the next college that will your college credits transfer with you as well. So sometimes you have to think about that. So it's twofold. There's an opportunity in the transfer portal, but there's a financial obligation or responsibility that you may have to think about as well.
Mm-hmm.
Um, if you're not getting that offer of some kind of athletic scholarship dollars to transfer to that next school.
Now you've been around big time sports for a long time, and you've been are you a fan of the transfer portal at the in these sports with golf and all the other type of sports that are not football and basketball? I mean, what is the disadvantage for programs, in your opinion? What's going on in your world of the transfer portal, and what other coaches that you talk to, because you're president of the Black College Golf Coaches Association nationwide. What has that done? What is y'all's conversation about this portal?
I think a lot of coaches like the portal. A lot of coaches don't like the portal. I mean, you got to be kind of a bit mindful of you know the kind of monies that's out there that these students are getting these days. It's unheard of. Um, I've never thought that we'll get to this kind of money at this level of college sports, and so it's hard. It's really hard to say because I really don't dive into the NIL much, simply because we don't offer NILs per se at our institutions at our level. But when you start talking about these big time programs, it seems like it's a negotiating tool to get the best players in the country. So uh, some of the programs that do very well in the NIL space, I'm sure they like it. For those that don't do so well in the NIL space, probably uh, want to put caps and things like that on it. So um, who's to say? It probably already started even at the high school level. So I don't, don't know that much in full detail to really talk, totally intelligently about the good and the bad. But there's some good points to it when you start talking about, a student athlete at the highest level. Uh, when we start talking about, injuries and things, long time injuries and things like that. Um, so there's some plus and minuses to it. I think it's just a continued conversation that needs to take place on where's the cutoff. So I
Mhm.
think that's kind of where the discussions probably are right now, um, around that space.
So, folks, welcome into the Sheila Smoot Show. I'm Sheila Smoot, talking about the NCAA transfer portal for athletes, those athletes in college currently, but those that are coming out of their senior year, sitting there wondering if they're going to now get picked up, because back in the day, which was not too long ago, high schoolers were the thing. But Coach, I'm not really sure if waiting for a high schooler from their senior year, good, bad, or ugly, is the thing. Is it better to wait for, are these coaches looking at and JUCO has always been the case, and that's junior college for those of you who want to know what JUCO is. But are coaches now more inclined to wait, in your opinion, for someone transferring in a D1, D2 program before you grab the college kid, or it's a little bit of both before you get to the high school kid?
As you know, with this current settlement that's out there on roster sizes, and schools opting into some of this, into this settlement. But I think, as I've kind of heard, that may be the judge is handling that. I think she made a decision to put something on pause. I kind of had to read more into it to kind of give you some more details. But um, I mean, with all these kids going in the transfer portal, you got the high school kids that might have been, we'll say, ranked 300 or 400. They might run the risk of not being recruited at the same colleges that they were recruited to 2 years ago. That could change. I mean, I think coaches have a certain level of control at this point right now, particularly with the transfer portal, and these college student athletes going into the portal. They're going to look there and see what's out there, and probably choose, because they're going to take run the risk of dealing with experienced players versus, you know, dealing with, say, perhaps a high school student that's coming out of college. And for the high school student, I think it's going to be vitally important when they look at their particular school choices, that it's going to be critical that they make their decisions early versus waiting to the last minute. Waiting to the last minute may cost you an opportunity, uh, of whether getting your school of choice, or not getting to school at all. So because because of the signing, and how coaches tend to want to sign and put the pressure on that student athlete to make a decision, because they also, coaches are also in a predicament too, that they're trying to sign the best players, but they're also trying to fill their rosters as well. So the sooner the better of getting those rosters filled.
That's a good point. That's a good point you just made about, so back in the day, and I know I keep referring to that because this has not been around that long. It's been a discussion, portal transfers. Transferring has been around, But folks, you used to have to sit out. You used to have to wait a year and to get on, and now it's just automatic. And it's twice a year, right? And when you can transfer, what, a couple of times a year, get in the portal, it opens up 2 or 3 times a year. 2 times, I think.
It might be two, but I think from my experience, there's, you got the fall and the spring.
Right.
And there's a lot of different rules out there with the NCAA regulations that you got to be, if you don't know, you can find yourself, I've come across where a student athlete transferred to another school, competed at another school, and that school declared their season to be their championship segment, goes to another school, transfers from that school, goes to another school, thinking that they're going to be able to compete at the next school. Well, that school's championship segment was in the spring, so therefore you can't play at two different colleges under that particular rule. He was declared ineligible to compete. So you have to know a lot of different. You need to know, at least understand some of the rules, and talk to your compliance officers at your colleges before making certain decisions of going into the transfer portals. And the compliance officers do a very, very good job at that when it comes to understanding the rules and regulation of the NCAA.
Understood. Folks, again, we're talking about this transfer portal, how it's impacting current students and how it's impacting high school. So, Coach, you're talking about a high schooler that said, well, I'm going to sit out, particularly in this college sports, the golf world. You don't have as many scholarships as a football roster. I mean, what do you, the average college coach has in regard to college scholarships? It's pretty limited, isn't it?
It is. Typically under Division II, and I'll speak to Division II because that's what I know, is typically 3.6 scholarships that the NCAA say we can have for a male program. But at your schools, that probably most likely would not be the case. Most schools probably particularly at our level, is probably unless you're a high level D2 school, probably are not giving out full scholarships, athletic scholarships. There may be a partial scholarship here. And some schools, for the high schoolers out there, you have some colleges that might stack. Meaning what stacking is that you might have a 3.5 GPA and you get an institutional scholarship, and the athletic department might be able to stack some money on top of that. So you might get, $5,000 from your institution side. You might get another $5,000 from your athletic side. So some schools stack scholarships, others don't. So those are the things that the high schoolers need to think about when it comes to schools at their school of choices. Now, with this transfer portal, the settlement that's out there, going schools opting in with the roster sizes, that's all going to play a vital role when it comes to families making decisions.
I do want to ask you this, and I'm going to go into this. Do players lose their scholarship if they're entering the transfer portal, folks? Entering the transfer portal does not, let me repeat, does not guarantee transfer eligibility. Athletes must be in good academic standing. We talked about that, without a history of serious disciplinary action. Entering the transfer portal may impact your current scholarship as early as the next term, even if you do not end up transferring out. And can you, and the other question is, can you go back to your school after entering the transfer portal? Yes, it is possible to return to your original school after entering the transfer portal, but coach, that's not guaranteed. As a coach, when a kid enters the transfer portal and doesn't get picked up, would you take them back, or is that bad for the team morale, or what does that do? Because there are I know of at least one athlete in Georgia who got in the transfer portal because his coach told him, hey, I'm a new coach, bringing in my people. it might be wise to get in the transfer portal. And guess what? They didn't get picked up. Want to come back to the school, and the coach is like, well, I don't have a place for you. And that is the problem, I think, and the risk that folks take. And when parents, let me talk to you for a minute. When you interject yourselves so much so to the point where you're looking at it from just your perspective and not your child's student athlete's perspective, then we get into situations where you get less than, and we can go into the whole Tennessee situation with that football player. I'll go there with Nico, that football player who wanted, they say, $4 million, but ended up going to UCLA, I believe, and getting less than what he was already making at Tennessee. So coaches are standing up to this too, and his parent apparently, allegedly, got in the way of that deal, and agents are back in it. It's a lot. So your advice to a parent who's looking at saying, hey, we just happen to have a star athlete on our hands, and I'm going to go with just sticking with sports like golf, lacrosse, soccer, softball, baseball, things of that nature. What is your advice when they start to say, okay, we're going to jump. We're about to jump in the transfer portal. What is the risk of that, and what are you cautioning parents and athletes when they think they are all that in a bag of chips?
Well, and I can only speak to golf and football, basketball, all this high level sports like that.
Right.
It's different, but golf, from a golf perspective, the one thing that I would advise student athlete and the parents to think about, one, depending on what your relationship is with the coach, could determine whether you stay or go once you jump into the transfer portal. Because typically what happens is once you jump into the transfer portal, usually coaches, from my experience, you no longer get the opportunity to compete. So you losing that option to practice. A lot of different things that come into play depending on your relationships, and it becomes vitally important if you jump into the transfer portal and you don't know where you're going, you don't have a clue. You can always come back out of the transfer portal and stay at your college, but just like you mentioned, you may not have a position because that coach has already identified the next person coming into their program. So you have to be very, very mindful of that when you make your decision. Don't make a hasty decision because you're an upset parent or an upset student athlete, and you make a rash. You just jump into the portal because you're upset that day, because you may not have an opportunity, or things may not be. We've all heard this old saying. Sometimes we think the grass is greener on the other side.
Right.
So I think we've all heard that phrase before. Just because you don't know, you may had some experience with the coach, you may not have some experiences with the coaches, and find out that opportunity wasn't any better than in the current situation you're in. So I would just caution parents. I would caution the student athletes to just that should be a well thought out process, discussion, before even considering putting your name in the portal. And then once you make that decision, then you're okay with that decision, and whatever the outcome might be.
Well, we certainly appreciate your expertise, Coach Smoot. And for those of you who've been wondering, also, is this person related to me? Yeah, head coach of Miles College. Yeah, I'm the little sister, the big sister and the middle sister. Yeah, this is my big brother, Coach Leonard Smoot. Thank you. And for those of you who don't know, he's been the SIAC Coach of the Year many times, Golf Coach of the Year, all conference. He's produced all academic players. He's won, again, the conference championship. I can't even count. He has also been on the PGA Minority Collegiate Championship Advisory Council. And my Coach Smoot is also in Division II, and he is the president of the Black College Golf Coaches Association nationwide, and he also played for the Marine Corps golf team. He's in the Black Golf Coaches Hall of Fame, and he was the third Black person to ever play on the Marine Corps golf team. And I asked him one time, "You mean on the golf team?" And he said, "No, in the history of the Marine Corps." So Chief Warrant Officer Smoot, head golf coach, and he just took his team to Japan. I don't know how you got that money, but apparently the Japanese folks, he did serve in Okinawa for 10 years in Konnichiwa. So you're hearing from an expert, not just my big brother. Coach Smoot, keep up the good work with your players. I know you started that Miles College golf team, and the folks up there, particularly your president, Bobby Knight, is very happy that you are still there. I know you had a chance to go a couple of places, but you choose to put your heart into HBCU golf, so I think they all appreciate that. Thank you for joining my show. I wish my dad could see this. We talked about golf when we were children, and our Uncle Frank, who gave us that inspiration. I choose, folks, when it comes to golf, it's 18 holes, but I choose to do 9 and dine. That's 9 holes of golf and hamburgers after that. I got golf clubs, but hey, I can play. Don't get confused. I just choose to do it my way, as Frank Sinatra would say. So thank you so much, Coach, for joining us. It's always a pleasure talking to you, and invite me to that pool of yours. Just saying.
Absolutely, absolutely, absolutely. And I wish the families great travels and focus on their student athletes, their children, to make sure that they make the right decisions, particularly at the high school level. Don't get discouraged, be motivated, and proactive. And if they do that, I think that the outcomes will be what they truly want to see for both for the student athlete, their children, and the parents alike. So
thanks a lot for joining us. I'm Shelia Smoot for the Shelia Smoot Show. Don't be a sucker, be a consumer, and we'll see you next week.